Well, because a certain team had one of the most brutal collapses you'll see in the month of September, it's our first Mailbag Monday of the offseason. This should be interesting. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, October 2nd, 2023. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Patnett for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. This is Mailbag Monday, the show where we answer your Mariners questions. And we got 86 replies to our tweet looking for questions yesterday. So we might end up doing a part 2. We'll see, because we're only going to be able to get to about 8 of them today, and we're going to start with Gregory. Wants to know, and this was obvious that this was going to be the first question: how much did you love Cal's comments? How much did you hate his unnecessary apology? I don't think we need to go over what Gregory's talking about here. I think we all know, unless you've been living under a rock, what Cal Raleigh had to say after the Mariners were officially eliminated on Saturday night. So, Colby, thoughts on all of it?
I mean, no lies detected. It was definitely a shot at the trade deadline. It was definitely a shot at the winter. And it's definitely a shot at, everybody who makes decisions or has a say in player acquisition, which is obviously, everybody in the front office and ownership. It's pretty clear, he didn't mince words or anything like that. And again, he didn't lie. He didn't make anything up. It's all stuff we've already known and we've said. And now this time a player said it, and he was backed up, yesterday by JP and Ty France, among others. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody had any issue with what he had to say. In fact, I don't think Scott Service had an issue with what he had to say. I kind of doubt that Jerry and Justin had an issue with what he had to say. Right. I mean, I know he apologized kind of, yesterday, but I don't think that's an apology that was, asked for by Scott Service. I don't think that's an apology that was asked for by the front office. I think that was an apology that was demanded from, people who are Scott's bosses. And so, right. Yeah, I don't have an issue with what he said. The apology, it meant nothing because he doesn't believe it. We know he doesn't, and he shouldn't. And the very fact that he said, yeah, I apologize for that, but I'm not apologizing for wanting to win is, yeah, I'm apologizing, but I'm not apologizing. And he shouldn't, because he didn't say anything wrong. You want players who want to win. You want players who, are willing to criticize people in power who are preventing them from, reaching their goal. And their goal happens to be the same as our goal as fans, and that's to win a World Series. So, I have no issues with what he said. I'm not blaming Scott for, I saw some people taking oh, Scott made him apologize. And it was like, did Scott make him apologize, or
right? Yeah. I think Scott could have handled it a little bit better when he talked to the media. Sure. I know he's obviously not going to come out and just outright say yeah, Cal's right. Because Scott's getting fired immediately if he says that. But he kind of framed it in a way where it's like Cal was wrong. It was at the height of his emotions, yada, yada, yada.
Right.
He didn't need to say that. Yeah, he didn't need to say that. He didn't need to say that. No. So I found that kind of disappointing from Scott. But yeah, loved what Cal said, because this is obviously what's on everyone's minds. And this is obviously nothing that's coming as a surprise to Scott Service or the rest of that clubhouse. These are feelings that I think it's safe to assume are shared across the board in that clubhouse, ever since the deadline, and probably since before that as well. I'm sure there were a lot of people that took issue with the offseason in that clubhouse as well. So,
right. I mean, you remember the discussion we had back after the deadline where it's like, is there some kind of, tension building between the front office and Scott? Because Scott wasn't mincing words either. I mean, he did it in the most, politically correct or whatever way he could, but he questioned the deadline and he wanted more help. And I think it was a Cal who also said after the deadline, like, man, that it sucks to lose Paul and not bring anybody in and all that stuff. So this is something that there's a clear tension between the players and the front office, and that's not unique to Seattle. Let's just make that very clear. That's certainly not unique to Seattle. It's not a situation that Scott is going at alone or anything like that. This is a tension that exists throughout all of baseball. But
right, absolutely,
yeah. The idea that Cal threw his teammates under the bus or anything. No, quite the opposite.
No,
Cal believes in this team more than the front office does and more than ownership does.
I've seen a lot of comparisons made between this and like the George Kirby thing down in Tampa, and those are very different situations in my opinion. One last thing that I want to add, and look, I get what Cal is saying, and he's just using the Rangers as a very easy example. But I know there are fans out there that are looking at the Rangers and say, I want the Mariners to be that. And you really don't, because like, while they have spent a lot of money, which is good in general, right? Generally speaking, spending money is good. Some of what they've done in terms of spending and just their overall aggressiveness on the trade market as well has been kind of stupid, right? Like getting in bed with someone like Aroldis Chapman and trading what looks to be a top of the rotation starter who could legitimately help them right now. Stupid. Anyone with half a brain cell knew that the Jacob deGrom contract would go horribly. Given all the reports about his elbow before he even hit free agency, like you could see the writing on the wall with some of those things. Like the Rangers have, like, it's worked out with Semien, it's worked out with Seager, which is great, good for them. But some of what they've done feels like they're just spending money for the sake of spending money. I want the Mariners to spend more than they have in a very long time. But I want them to do it intelligently. I want them to do it only when it makes sense for them to do it.
Two things real fast on that. We could spend the whole segment on this, and we will have conversations like this pretty much every day for the next 3-4 months. But the Rangers aren't the model you want to follow. It's the Braves. First and foremost, and the Braves will spend money, but the Braves also develop their own and they acquire players via trade, not really free agency. But aside from that, also. Let's not pretend that the Rangers are only standing here because of the money they spent. Nathaniel Lowe was a trade, and they developed him. Adolis Garcia develop. Josh Young develop. I mean, you look at Leotis Taveras develop. Jonah Heim develop. They didn't just go out and buy a team that won one more game than Seattle, 2 more games than Seattle.
Right.
They didn't just do that. Right. They
and that's the thing,
good
right?
pieces, but the core of that team is built on the farm system and trades,
right?
Like most good teams are.
And that's the thing, right? Is that they've spent all this money, and the Mariners are not that far behind them still. And you look at that roster overall, and it's like, who really thinks that they're going to go and win a World Series this October? Like, there's still a lot of work that they even have to do, despite all the money they've spent. So it's not just about spending money. You're not just going to magically snap your fingers, and all of a sudden there's a World Series in your hand. Like you have to use money as a tool, rather than it being the catalyst of your roster build. So like you said,
the Padres how easy it is to buy a World Series. Go ask the Mets how easy it is to buy a World Series.
Right. There's no rhyme or reason to building a roster, to building a World Series contender. But the Rangers are definitely not the model of roster building. Like some Mariners fans seem to be treating them as such. And so just wanted to get that out of the way, because I don't look at the Rangers and say that's what the Mariners need to aspire to be. I don't really look at any team. I think the Mariners are just going to do it in their own way, and that's what I would prefer. But they do have to be willing to spend money when it makes sense for them. So, all right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's get into more of your questions. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. So forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on the first Mailbag Monday of the 2023-24 offseason. We are 10 and a half minutes in, and we've only answered one question, so we're off to a great start. Let's get back into these questions. Yeah, brevity is not our strong suit. You guys know what the deal is, though. All right, Garrett wants to know, should we hope and or expect that this result will compel John Stanton to actually let Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander do their jobs?
No.
Hope,
next question.
Hope, yes. Expect that? No, absolutely not. Hope for the best, expect the worst, I guess. That's kind of where I'm at with this.
Just expect, the rich sports owner to not actually care about how good his team is.
Yeah.
No, the answer is no. You shouldn't expect that.
Yeah.
You should expect it, but you shouldn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You should demand it, but
you shouldn't expect that it's going to change things. That it's going to give him the kick in the ass. Some people think this will, right?
I'm sure
that's probably not going to happen.
I'm sure he's going to create another $10,000 box that 99.9998% of fans will never see.
Right, including myself.
Yeah, good use of money.
Yep,
nice.
All right, next question. Mariners Jersey Tracker wants to know, now that it is the off season, where are you officially at with what to do with Teoscar Hernández? Oh, it's the age-old question, Colby. Well, we're now at the end of the season. We now have the full context of Teo's 2023 season. For me, I'm still a little bit on the fence, but I'm leaning mostly to letting him walk. I think I'm pretty firm on not giving him the qualifying offer at this point. But I'm interested in an extension still. I don't know, because think about it like this.
I'm kind of the opposite.
But here's the thing, right? Is if he does take the QO, it's $20 million, which I think is there's a legitimate chance of him taking the QO at this point.
Yeah.
So that's going to be roughly $20 million. If John Stanton goes to Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander and says you have $40 million to work with in terms of 2024 payroll to be added this offseason, and that's probably even being generous. And that's just where I'm at pessimistically. But if that's what it is, right, then that's half of your available budget for 2024. I'm probably not doing that, because essentially you're just running it back. And while I think that Teo is definitely better than this, and I think he's going to have a great year wherever he goes, I really do believe that. I don't think this is who he is now. I really don't think this is who he is. I don't know if that's necessarily worth spending $20 million on if you're the Mariners.
2 years in a row he's had less than what you would expect type of seasons.
But he didn't do this.
He's 31. He's on the wrong side of 30. I'm actually the opposite of you. I'm not really interested in an extension. If he wants to play here for one more year, fine, whatever. But I'm not giving Teoscar 3 years. I'm not giving him 4 years. Because if he just declines another 10% like he did, from 2021 to 2022, from 2022 to 2023, if he declines another 10%, I'm paying, $80 million over the next, $55 million over the next 3 or 4 years for a guy who's going to be a league average bat who isn't really a good defender.
Right.
I'd much rather have him on a 1-year deal.
Yeah. I guess for me, it would be a 2-year deal or nothing.
I don't think I think he'll probably look for a 3.
Yeah.
Why should he take anything less than what Haniger got?
Honestly, I think he's going to go back to Toronto, if I had to guess.
I could see it.
Yeah.
Which is fine by me. Teoscar is a guy who's quickly heading towards DH only. The strikeouts are an issue. And again, it's 3 years in a row his WRC plus has dipped by at least 10 points. He's fine. I think if he's a $14 million a year, 1 year stopgap, fine. You could do worse. And I don't know where I stand on the qualifying offer. If Seattle gives it to him, fine. I'm not going to crucify them for it. If they don't and they let him walk, fine. I'm not going to, get on their case about it. This is kind of one of those ones where you have to trust the baseball ops people. and, understand that overall they've done a good job. So, one way or another, and there's no guarantee he takes it. I think he probably would, but yeah, if Teoscar, again, if I get Teoscar back for 1 year, fine. Like,
yeah, no, I'm cool with that in a vacuum. But again, if you only have so many dollars to work with and you think there's a real chance that he's going to accept the qualifying offer, you probably shouldn't do it, because you can't afford to just run it back. You can't afford to just run it back.
You can get more for $20 million than a 2-win right fielder.
Yeah.
For $20 million, I can go get a 7th inning bullpen arm. I can go get, I could probably go get a 2-win outfielder. Maybe they don't do it with home runs and RBIs, but I can probably go get, a guy who's going to make $8 to $10 million and give me 2 wins, in right field. And I can go get somebody to take some pressure off of Brash, and I could go get somebody who, sits on the bench and is, useful and not prone to go 6 for his last 82 or whatever Dylan Moore did down the stretch. So you could do more with $20 million. So if there is any kind of like serious financial constraints placed on this in this ball club, then I'd rather spend the 20 million elsewhere. But if there's a relatively open budget and Teoscar is brought back for, somewhere in that $20 million range, as long as it's on a short-term deal, I'm like, okay, like that could work.
Yeah. All right. Next question here comes from Allison. Is there any realistic way fans and players can hold ownership accountable for lack of spending on payroll? Also considering increase in 2024 season ticket prices, even though 2023 revenue and ticket sales were favorable, does a regional media play a role in front office accountability? So that's a multifaceted question. As far as the players, no. I mean, the players aren't really going to do anything outside of what, Cal did on Saturday night. That's really the extent of it, right? Because guys still want to have a job, right? Like they can't step too far over the line. That's about as big as you can go with it from a player standpoint. As for fans, don't go to the games, don't buy merchandise, don't buy TV packages. That's really all you can do. Will it actually have an impact? I mean, if enough of you do it, maybe, but in general, probably not. But if you don't feel comfortable in supporting this product and supporting the organization, and by virtue John Stanton, don't do it. Right?
Sure. I'm a realist, and the answer is no.
I mean, at the end of the day, there's really nothing you can do. You can't force him to sell. It's not going to he's not going to sell. So really, it's like at that point you have two options. It's you don't be a fan of the team, right? Or you just kind of hope for the best. And that's not to like suck up to John Stanton or excuse him or anything like that. That's just the reality of what the situation is, because he's not going anywhere.
That coward wants to come on the show, I'll read him the riot act. Yeah. Like, I'm not afraid of John Stanton. We have no relationship with the Mariners, none. So but the simple fact of the matter is that he's, a very rich guy, and rich guys don't do anything that doesn't make them money. Not to put too fine a point on it. So if you stop showing up, he'll spend less. Like, this isn't a thing. And I'd love to be proven wrong. I'd love for John Stanton to, for us a year from now to be like, wow, look at John. He really stepped up. And as a result, and we'll give him credit when he does. But so far he hasn't. There's zero proof that he has. There's zero proof that he will. You gave him the biggest surplus, in baseball last year. Like the team he owned made more money, more profit than any other team in baseball last year. And what did he do? He built luxury suites that none of us are ever going to sit in. Like, who cares? He built a parking lot. Like, who cares, man? Like this is put it in the team, and he hasn't done that yet. So no. And part of the problem is the media role is that the Mariners own Root Sports, which is what all the Mariners games are played on. So really it comes down to, is there anything Ryan Divish can do to, or any of those guys can do to embarrass them so much that they spend money? No, there's not. So, my philosophy on this is always just, all I can do is just stand here and keep poking them with a stick until they listen. Like, you're going to pay attention to us because we're going to keep poking you and bugging you. We're going to be enough of a nuisance that you'll eventually have to either answer us or you'll have to, put up or shut up, essentially. Yeah. So that's really all you can do, man. Keep poking with a stick, keep prodding. And you hope for the best, but It's our team, but John Stanton owns it because there's a terrible structure between a fan base. There's a terrible relationship between a fan base and the team. And if you don't believe me, you could go ask Oakland A's fans how they feel.
Yeah, exactly. And Colby and I recognize our role in this as content creators covering the team, and it's it's a small role, but it's still a role nonetheless, and we're not going to shy from criticizing them. There's been this whole misconception created that we're like bootlickers for the Mariners organization. Dude, I don't care. Right? Like, I don't care about building connections or whatever. Like, I'm just a guy who talks about his favorite baseball team on the internet. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's all I care about. I want to win. I want to get on this show one day and talk about a World Series. I would love, that's what I want to do more than anything here. I want that more than having Jerry DePoto on the show or having John Stanton on the show or having any of the players on the show. I want to win. That's what I want to do the most. I want to celebrate that with you guys. And that's all I care about at the end of the day.
By the way, guys, real fast, before we transition, I did a free episode of our Patreon show. It is available wherever you get, it's available on Patreon. Link will be in the description and all that stuff. But it basically outlines what we're talking about here about, how Ty and I plan to attack the offseason and hold people accountable this winter. So go listen to that if you haven't already for a more in-depth talk. Again, this one is free. And if you want to help us out, it'd be nice. We would greatly appreciate it. So yeah, I'll put a link down below in the description.
You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on the first Mailbag Monday of the off season. Get back into these questions. Alex wants to know, should the front office look to move on from Eugenio Suarez this offseason or wait one more year to make a decision on third base? Should they look? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Will they actually do something about that, or should they, given the market? Probably not. I would bet heavily on Gino being your starting third baseman in 2024 still.
Sure.
But that aside, he ran a 392 slugging percentage this year with a 31% K rate. That's just not good enough from your third baseman, no matter how good the defense is. And yes, the defense was great this year. And Gino the person, love him. Amazing. One of the best Mariners just on a personal level that we've seen in quite some time.
Right up there with Nelson Cruz.
Absolutely. But yeah, Gino, the baseball player, has to be better, and specifically the hitter, given the position that he plays, and given the fact that this, because you can survive with him putting up a season like this offensively, but you have to make up for it in another at another spot that you typically don't get that kind of production from. And right now, the Mariners have neither working for them. So you just need Gino to produce more at the plate as your starting third baseman. But is there going to be an option for you to fix that? Maybe not, because Matt Chapman isn't it. I know a lot of people are like, Matt Chapman, go get Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman was good for the month of April, and then he's been an utter disaster. Ask Blue Jays fans. Blue Jays fans are ready to say goodbye to him.
Yeah, he's worse than Gino. After April. So yeah, this is what I would say about Gino, and I know the question wasn't asked, but I'm gonna shoehorn this here anyways.
Right.
Gino and Ty France, both of the corner guys. You got 30 home runs between your two corner guys, 33. That's not enough. Neither of them slugged 400. That's not enough. No amount of defense makes up for both of those guys not hitting for any power.
Yeah.
That being said, this is what I would say. I don't think you have to replace Gino. I don't think you necessarily have to replace Ty France, but you can't count on them, right? You have to you have to allow yourself to be wrong on those guys and have a backup plan, preferably somebody who can handle both. But whatever it is, you can't just go in and be like, Gino is a starting third baseman, Ty France is a starting first baseman, no questions asked, and be like, we're gonna run it back with the same bench too and all that stuff. Nope, that doesn't work. So, can Gino be part of the solution to third base? Can Ty be part of the solution to first base? Yes, they still can.
Mm-hmm.
Can they be the only solution? Can it be like those guys have to figure it out or we're screwed again? No, that is the difference. So can the Mariners have a good offseason where Ty France still kind of slots in as the first baseman and Gino is still the third baseman? Yes, if you go get Jameer Candelario who could play both, and he's going to DH, and all that. Like, you have to
Right.
protect yourself, and
Right.
having Dylan Moore on your roster is not protecting yourself at third
Yeah.
and first.
Sam Haggerty, Jose Caballero. I'm sorry. Like, and look, I'm not asking for this team to go out and get like 8 new players.
No.
But get like 3 to 4 new starters and push everyone else to your bench. Like Josh Rojas should be like a utility guy. Like one of your primary, like one of your primary utility guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's still going to get a lot of playing time. Like he's going
to get 300, 400 at bats.
Yeah.
Play 4 or 5 times a week. And Rojas can be part of your solution at third base too, by the way.
Yeah.
I think a big error is Gino playing 162 games. Gino should be the last Mariner in the franchise's history to play every game of a season.
Yeah.
It's stupid. It adds no value. So
yeah, while I applaud him for doing it, like overall it's really stupid.
Nobody on your team should play more than 140-ish games.
Yeah, because you could see it. You could see the wear and tear very clearly. And I'm not going to blame all of that on that.
No, but still, there's about 22, 23 weeks in a regular season. Every player should have at least a day off per week.
100%. And the fact that the one day that he wasn't in the lineup, he still played that night in Cincinnati. No. All right. Got a couple more questions here before we wrap up today's show. Kip wants to know, last minute mailbag question. Even if the M's land Shohei, will it be enough? Related, if they do, what will the M's do with a regular DH? Could Shohei play first? LOL. So is Shohei enough? No. And we are going to say this a lot this offseason. If you are going to go after Shohei Ohtani, you have to be willing to do more. And this is a John Stanton thing. You cannot go to Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander and say, all right, here's the $45 million or whatever the hell it's going to take to land him in 2024. And that's it. That's all you get. You get Shohei, and that's basically your offseason. You figure out the rest with scraps. You try and trade on the cheap and all that stuff and try to build a roster that way. No. If all you get is basically the money it will take to land Shohei in 2024, you use that on multiple things. You use that on bulk rather than Shohei. You use that to go and get, like we just talked about with Teo, you use that to go get yourself a high leverage reliever. You use that to go get you a corner outfielder. You use that to go get you a Jameer Candelario or someone like that who can help on the corner infield. You get a bunch of 2 to 4 win players. Yep. Well, 2 to 3 win players more so, instead of just the big, 6 win guy.
No, Shohei's not enough. And if you think it is, welcome back to 2018. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it? Nope. Shohei's not enough. So again, this is one of the issues we have when you talk about, go get Ohtani. It's like, okay, yes, but do you have trust in the ownership to go do more?
Right.
Because you're not adding Shohei Ohtani to this lineup. And again, you're only getting hitter Ohtani. No, he can't play first base. He can't throw next year. DH only.
Yeah.
What do the Mariners do? Ohtani's the DH. He DHs every day. He's healthy.
He's just the DH.
You have less at bats to go around for other people.
And that's fine. And that's fine because it's Shohei Ohtani.
The bat is more than good enough. Like
it's Shohei Ohtani.
If you get prime Nelson Cruz for the DH, like you're not like, oh man, I really wanted to get Dylan Moore some at bats out of the DH spot. What do I do? Nothing. You just roll with prime, like screw Dylan Moore, screw whoever, Sam Haggerty, like whatever.
Yeah.
The DH thing's not really an issue. It's just the money is like, will you do more? Because to answer the question as bluntly as possible, no. Shohei Ohtani is not enough. You still need a backup catcher. You still need somebody who can play first and third every day. You still need an outfielder or two. You still need a high leverage bullpen arm. You still need a number 4, number 5 starter. Like you can get all that with the money you would give to Ohtani. So no.
Yeah. So this is the issue ultimately with going after guys like Ohtani and Juan Soto, because Soto is going to cost you about $35 million this year if you trade for him. And plus you're going to have to replace whatever you give up in a Soto deal, right? Like if that, random account on Twitter is close to the mark and saying that it might take you, Miller and Kelnick, etc. Like, again, let's just use that for an example. You're going to have to go replace those guys. And you're probably going to need at least a little bit of money to do that. And if Stanton's like, well, you spent $35 million on Soto, sorry, that's about it. That's about all I'm willing to write a check for. So you don't go after Juan Soto at that point. And that's not a Jerry Dipoto issue. That's not a Justin Hollander issue. That's an ownership issue. So let's make that very, very clear. Again, we're going to have this conversation a lot this offseason. So we'll be sure to reiterate that quite a bit. All right, next question here from the Black Han Solo, which is a great name. Is the front office petty enough to put Cal on the trade block for his comments? No, that would be a PR nightmare first and foremost. I don't think that John Stanton is that stupid, right? Because Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander, they're not going to be the ones that drive that effort if that were to happen. That would be a Stanton thing. I don't think that he's stupid enough to do that. Also, the Mariners need Cal Raleigh. They need him more than whatever they would get for Cal Raleigh.
Yep.
So,
nope, it's not going to happen. I do think Stanton's dumb enough to consider it, though. Or maybe not dumb's not the right, petty. Because if Stanton, had any sense whatsoever, he should have come out yesterday and be like, Cal's right. Cal's right. I need to do more. I'm going to.
Yeah.
And it would have been that. That would have been that.
We know he's a coward, though. He's too much of a coward.
We know that the reason that Cal had to apologize was because somebody in Stanton's inner circle made it known that I expect an apology for that.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a 0% chance Scott did that. I think it's highly unlikely that Jerry did that because Jerry's never had an issue with letting players, take shots at him. Yeah. Kyle Seager took huge shots at Jerry DiPoto, and Jerry. Nothing.
Jerry never once sent.
Never threw him under the bus. Never shot back. He just okay. Yeah. I mean, we respect Kyle, and we wish him luck in retirement. That's what he said. After Kyle tried to salt the grounds of Carthage after he burned it down, what did Jerry do? We wish him luck. He's a great player. He had a great career.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a Jerry or Justin thing either. I think this comes up from higher than even those guys. And there's only a couple people higher up in the Mariners organization than Jerry DiPoto.
It's Stanton and it's the board.
Yep.
That's it. Jerry's second in command, at least as far as, baseball ops goes.
It's a distant second though.
Yeah, it's a distant second.
Stanton and his cronies have all the power.
Yeah, 100%. But that definitely came from the top. Mm-hmm. But do I think that Stanton will go as far as to demand that Cal be traded this offseason? No, not going to happen. Last one from CNC Talks. Does there need to be changes to the coaching staff and or front office? I assume that you're specifically asking about Service and DiPoto. We don't have time to go down that whole rabbit hole. The very basic answer is no. Coaching staff changes in general, though, I think it might be time to move on from Manny Acta.
At third base coach.
As third base coach, at least. Maybe not entirely, on the coaching staff. I like Manny, nothing against Manny, but his sins this year at third base were rough, to put it lightly.
Right. If I were the general manager randomly of a team that needed a manager, Manny Acta would be on my short list.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
the dude gets it. He blends the new flavor with the old flavor very, very well. He's bilingual, which is a huge plus, and he kind of acts as a go-between. Manny Acta has tremendous value. I just don't know if third base is where he's going to give you that value.
Yeah.
Look, it's a tough job, right? Nobody cares when you send a guy and he's safe, but when you don't do it and the guy's out by 10 feet, you're fired. It's crazy difficult, but I just think his talents are better used elsewhere. But I don't know. Do there need to be a hitting coach change? Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. Who knows?
How would I know?
But again, that's such a common oversimplification by fans to be just fire the hitting coach. It'll fix everything.
Nobody wanted to fire the hitting coach after July, after the All-Star break until about, a week ago. So
yeah,
you see, it doesn't matter.
The fire Scott Service crowd died out until things got bad again.
Grow up.
All right. That's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Trident Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dan Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on Mailbag Monday. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.